The night sky above Earth looked calm and endless. Stars sparkled across the black canvas, silent witnesses to countless secrets. High above the blue planet, a lone ship floated, hidden from human eyes. Inside that ship sat Kale, a traveler not from Earth, but from a world far away. He was an alien researcher, chosen to study the creatures called humans. For years, his people had watched Earth from a distance. They saw humans build cities, fight wars, sing songs, and dream under the stars, but there was one mystery Kale could not solve. How did humans create more of themselves? How did their kind continue when they had no cloning chambers, no growth machines, no artificial wombs like his people? Kale stared at Earth with sharp silver eyes. His species reproduced without love, without pain, only by science. They grew their young inside crystal pods, cold and silent. But humans were different. Fragile bodies, short lives, yet spreading across the planet with unstoppable force. It puzzled him. It fascinated him. Tonight, Kale had come closer than any of his kind before. He would not just watch from the sky. He would walk among them. The ship hummed quietly as Kale activated his disguise. His form shimmered, skin reshaping, features bending until he looked almost human. Tall, pale, with dark hair and strange eyes that still glowed faintly, he studied his reflection and whispered, "This should be enough." The craft lowered silently through the clouds, invisible to radar. Kale stepped onto the ground of a quiet city street. The air smelled different here, alive with smoke, food, and rain. He listened to the noise of traffic, voices, laughter, all blending into one endless melody. Humans passed by him without knowing. A secret visitor walked beside them. Kale walked slowly, observing every detail. A child ran past, holding a red balloon. Two adults called after him, their voices warm with care. Kale tilted his head, confused. On his world, children were raised by machines. No parent chased after them. No hand reached to guide them. Here, everything was different. He followed the family quietly, his mind recording every gesture, every word. "Be careful," the woman said, smiling as she caught the child's hand. Kale repeated the words under his breath, trying to understand their meaning. Further down the street, Kale noticed two young humans walking together. They were holding hands, their faces bright with laughter. Sometimes they leaned close, whispering to each other as if sharing a secret. No one else could hear. Kale frowned. Why did humans touch each other so much? Why did their faces glow with joy when they were close? He felt his chest tighten with questions. In his log he wrote silently, "Humans form strange bonds, stronger than logic, possibly linked to reproduction." But still, he did not know the truth. Kale's journey took him to a park. There, children played on swings while parents watched with careful eyes. One child fell, scraping his knee. The boy cried, and instantly, a woman rushed to him, lifting him into her arms. She whispered soft words, kissed his forehead, and the child's tears slowly stopped. Kale froze. What was this power? His people had no such thing. Pain was treated with medicine, not touch. Yet here, a simple embrace healed faster than any cure. Kale whispered to himself, "Humans. They are fragile, but they do not break easily." As the night grew deeper, Kale's curiosity burned stronger. He had seen children, he had seen families, but he still did not understand the greatest secret. Where did these children come from? How were they created? He walked past a glowing screen in a shop window. It showed images of families, babies being held by smiling parents. Kale's heart raced. His people had always believed humans used hidden machines, or perhaps divided like crystals. But now he wondered if the truth was more mysterious. He felt like a hunter standing at the edge of a forbidden forest, eager to step inside. Kale stopped near a hospital, its tall white walls glowing under bright lights. Humans walked in and out, some tired, some smiling, some carrying small bundles wrapped in cloth. He watched closely, his eyes widening as he realized the bundles were newborn babies. New life carried in fragile arms. Kale felt his pulse quicken. This place was the center of the mystery. If he wanted answers, he would need to go inside. But even as he prepared, a strange feeling filled him. For the first time, Kale felt something beyond science. A sense of wonder, a sense of fear. And a quiet whisper in his mind said, "Be careful, Kale. The truth may change everything you believe." He stood under the hospital lights, the city alive around him. Humans laughed, cried, and loved in ways he could not yet understand. Kale knew one thing. Tonight was only the beginning. The secret of human reproduction was close, and he was ready to discover it, no matter the cost. First observations. Kale moved silently through the human city. The hospital still glowed behind him, whispering mysteries he was not yet ready to face. His curiosity burned like fire, but his instincts told him to wait, to watch, to learn more before entering that sacred place. So he walked deeper into the city streets, hidden in plain sight, a stranger among billions. The city was alive, bright. Lights flashed from tall buildings, music echoed from passing cars, and voices filled the night like endless waves. Humans were everywhere, each one different, yet connected by something invisible. Kale felt small among them, even though he came from a species that considered itself advanced. Here, he was the one who knew nothing. Here, he was the student, and humans were the teachers. He paused near a small cafe where people sat together, drinking warm cups of liquid and laughing. Through the glass, Kale studied them. He saw two friends talking, their hands moving as much as their lips, their eyes shining with stories he did not understand the details, but he understood something deeper. They were not just sharing words. They were sharing pieces of themselves. Every laugh, every smile was an exchange of trust. Kale whispered into his recorder, "Humans communicate beyond sound. They give each other comfort by presence alone." At another table, a family sat, close together, a father, mother, and two children. The smallest child spilled a drink, and the father leaned forward quickly, cleaning the mess, smiling gently as if the mistake meant nothing. The mother touched the child's cheek and said something soft. The child smiled, safe again. Kale's silver eyes narrowed with wonder. Why do they forgive so quickly? Why do they protect so fiercely? His own kind did not know such things. On his world, mistakes were punished. Weakness was erased, but here, weakness was met with kindness, and mistakes were met with patience. Kale stepped back from the cafe and followed the streets further. He found himself in a quieter part of the city, where houses stood in rows, windows glowing like warm stars. He stopped at one house where laughter echoed through thin walls. Peering carefully, he saw through an open curtain. Inside, a mother rocked a baby in her arms, humming a tune. Beside her, a man watched with soft eyes, his hand resting gently on her shoulder. Kale's heart beat faster. He had never seen such a thing. In his world, a newborn was placed in a pod, never touched by its parent. But here, the newborn was carried in arms, wrapped in warmth, surrounded by voices of love. Kale whispered again, "The secret of human survival may not be in their bodies, but in their bonds." He turned away, but the image burned in his mind. The fragile baby, the protective arms, the unspoken promise that the humans would fight the whole universe if they had to, just to keep that child safe. As he walked further, Kale entered a public park. The night air smelled of grass and wet soil. Children still played even though the sky was dark, their laughter rising into the stars. Kale watched them run, climb, fall, and rise again. Each time one stumbled, another child offered a hand, pulling them back up. Kale tilted his head. Even the smallest among them understood connection. Even the youngest knew they were stronger together. His people valued strength above all. But here he saw something greater. He saw unity. One child noticed Kale and waved at him. Kale stiffened, surprised, but forced a small smile in return. The child laughed and ran back to play. Kale touched his chest where the smile had formed. Why did that simple gesture make him feel lighter? What strange energy did these humans carry that spread so easily from one to another? He sat on a bench and pulled out his recorder again. His voice was steady, but his thoughts raced. Observation. Humans do not survive alone. Their strength lies not in weapons or technology, but in invisible ties. They comfort, protect, and forgive. Their reproduction appears linked not only to biology, but also to emotional connection. Further study required. The sound of music pulled him from his thoughts. Across the park, a group of teenagers sat together, playing guitars and singing. Under the stars, their voices rose in harmony, raw and imperfect, yet beautiful. Cale leaned forward, captivated. Songs were rare in his world. Music was seen as wasteful, but here, humans poured their hearts into sound, and somehow, that sound made them stronger, binding them in joy. Cale felt his throat tighten. For the first time in his life, he wanted to understand not just with logic but with feeling. Hours passed, but Cale's hunger for knowledge only grew. He returned to the busy streets, following another young couple. They walked close together, whispering and laughing. Their fingers entwined. Cale studied them carefully. Something about their closeness seemed linked to reproduction, but he did not yet understand how. He saw them stop under a streetlight, where they leaned close and pressed their lips together. Cale's eyes widened. He had never seen such a gesture. He recorded quickly. Possible ritual? Some form of bonding exchange? The act appears to strengthen connection between partners, but he knew this was still only the surface of the truth. As the night reached its quietest hour, Cale found himself back near the hospital. His steps slowed, his heart heavy with questions. He had observed much, yet the greatest mystery remained. Where do human children truly come from? How is life created within them? And most of all, why do they wrap the process in so much love? Cale looked up at the glowing hospital windows. Inside those walls lay the answers, but he felt a strange shiver of fear. What if the truth was more than he could understand? What if it changed him forever? He closed his recorder and whispered to the night, "Humans are not simple. They are not weak. They carry something my people have never known, and I must uncover it." The city breathed around him, alive and endless, and Cale, the alien observer, took one more step toward the secret that would shake his entire world. The mistaken theory. Cale returned to his ship before dawn. The city behind him still whispered with voices, laughter, and cries, but he needed space to think. His recorder was full of notes, his mind full of questions. Yet the mystery of human reproduction was still unsolved. He sat inside the quiet chamber of his craft, the walls glowing faintly with alien light, and replayed the memories of the night. Children, parents, families, couples, all tied together by bonds invisible to the eye. He had seen babies in arms, but not the moment of their true beginning. His people reproduced in glass pods, a crystal chamber filled with genetic code. No emotions, no risks, no mystery. It was simple, efficient, logical. Humans, however, carried an element of chaos, and Cale was desperate to explain it. He opened his log and began to list possible theories. First hypothesis, he spoke calmly. Humans reproduce by transfer of energy through food. He remembered how families ate together, how couples shared meals with laughter, perhaps. The act of eating together caused some hidden transformation. He imagined the food breaking down inside their bodies, creating small new lives. He pictured humans feeding each other, believing that this was how they grew their young. It made sense to him, but deep down, he felt the theory was too simple. Second hypothesis, Cale continued, his voice sharper. Humans reproduce through emotional bonding. He thought about the couples holding hands, about the strange act of pressing lips together under the streetlight. Perhaps the emotions themselves created life. On his world, emotions were seen as weakness. Yet here, they seemed powerful. Maybe when two humans cared deeply, their energy combined, and from that bond, a new human was born. Cale leaned back, imagining humans simply creating children from love alone. The idea both confused him and fascinated him. Third hypothesis, Cale whispered. Humans reproduce by division, like crystals or cells. He remembered seeing children who looked like their parents, smaller versions, similar faces, same eyes, same voices. Perhaps humans split in half, and one half grew into a child. Cale frowned. But he did not dismiss it. On some planets, life formed through division. Why not here? He imagined a human body slowly splitting into two, and the second becoming a child. The thought disturbed him, but it also made sense with what he had observed. Cale paused, his silver eyes glowing faintly. Every theory felt incomplete, yet he could not stop building them. Humans had layers of mystery, and each layer pulled him deeper. He remembered the mother rocking her baby in her arms. Was that child formed by food, by emotion, or by division? He could not decide, and the uncertainty gnawed at him. To test his theories, Cale needed proof. He returned to the city, blending once again into the crowd. This time, he focused not on families but on couples. He followed them through streets, through markets, through quiet corners. He observed gestures of touch, of closeness, of affection. Each time, he noted patterns. Every touch seemed to strengthen their connection. Every smile seemed to carry hidden meaning. Perhaps his theory of emotional reproduction was correct, but something still felt missing. In the park, Cale watched as two young humans whispered. Under a tree, their faces drew closer, their lips touched again. Cale leaned forward, eyes wide. If this act created life, then surely he had witnessed the beginning of reproduction. He recorded quickly. Observation. Lip pressing may be ritual of life creation, though no immediate change detected. Perhaps a delayed process. He waited, but nothing happened. The humans simply laughed and walked away, leaving Cale confused. Later, he found himself near another cafe. Inside, a pregnant woman sat with her husband, her hand resting on her round belly. Cale froze, his heart pounding. Here was something new, something he had not noticed before. The woman carried life inside her, her body changing to hold another being. Cale's mind raced with explanations. Perhaps she swallowed special food, he thought, recalling his first theory. Or perhaps her bond with her partner caused the life to form, he considered, recalling the second. He pressed his hand against the glass, whispering, "Which is true?" For hours he followed the couple, watching every detail. The husband spoke gently. The wife smiled with tired joy. Strangers on the street offered them kindness, moving aside, helping her walk. Cale felt something stir inside him. Humans not only created life, they celebrated it, protected it, honored it. This was not science alone. This was something deeper, but Cale's theories still clashed inside his mind. He saw no machines, no pods, no division of bodies. Yet life grew, hidden inside the mother. It was beyond his logic, and the more he thought, the more he realized he might be wrong, completely wrong. That night, Cale returned his ship with a troubled heart. He replayed the images in his mind, the pregnant woman, the couples, the families, the babies. None of his theories could fully explain the truth. His people always believed the universe could be measured, explained, and controlled. But humans, with their fragile forms and powerful emotions, seemed to defy that belief. He sat in silence, staring out at the stars. For the first time, Cale doubted his own knowledge. What if human reproduction was not just a biological act? What if it was something greater, something his people had never known, something tied to the strange force humans called love? Cale clenched his fists. He could not stop now. He had to see the truth with his own eyes, and there was only one place left to find it: the hospital, the place where human life began in front of witnesses, the place that might hold the answers to every question burning inside him. He whispered into his log one final note for the night. Hypotheses remain incomplete. Observation insufficient. Direct investigation required. Tomorrow, I will enter the human birthing place. I will see creation with my own eyes. The ship grew silent around him. But Cale's mind was louder than ever, filled with theories, doubts, and fear. He did not know it yet, but the truth waiting for him inside the hospital would not only change his understanding of humans, it would change his very soul. Shocking discovery. The night was quiet, but Cale's mind was storming. He had tested theories, made notes, followed humans, yet none of his ideas felt complete. Food did not explain it. Emotions did not fully explain it, and division like crystals made no sense after what he saw. The mystery only deepened, and Cale knew there was only one way left. He had to go inside the hospital. He had to see the truth for himself. His ship remained cloaked above the city, hidden in the clouds. From there, Cale descended again, activating his human disguise. The streets were nearly empty, but the hospital glowed like a beacon, filled with lights and life even at this late hour. Humans entered and exited, some smiling with joy, some wiping tears, some carrying small bundles wrapped in blankets. Cale's heart pounded in his chest. Those bundles were the new ones, the newborns, the result of the great mystery. He had seen them before, but he had never seen the moment they arrived. Slipping through the doors, Cale activated his invisibility cloak. No one looked at him. No one noticed the alien figure among them. The smell of medicine and clean air filled his senses. Machines beeped softly in the distance. Footsteps echoed across white floors. Voices spoke in urgent yet calm tones. Cale moved slowly, scanning rooms, recording everything with his hidden device. At first, he saw humans sleeping in beds, recovering from illness. This confused him, but he knew his goal lay deeper inside. He followed the sound of hurried footsteps until he reached a ward filled with expectant mothers. Some lay in beds, holding their swollen bellies, breathing slowly. Others were surrounded by family, who whispered encouragement. Cale froze, his silver eyes widening. Here it was, the center of the mystery. He whispered into his log. Observation. Life begins inside the female human body, not outside in machines. Hypothesis confirmed, but process still unclear. Moments later, Cale heard a cry of pain from one of the rooms. He moved quickly, slipping inside unseen. There, he found a woman on a bed, surrounded by doctors and nurses, her face covered in sweat. Her hands gripping tightly, she cried out again, her voice raw with agony. Cale's chest tightened. Was this how life was created? Through suffering? The doctors spoke calmly, encouraging her, guiding her through every moment. The woman screamed again, and Cale felt himself trembling. He had never seen such raw struggle, such pain willingly endured. And then, in the middle of her cries, came a new sound. A high, sharp wail, the cry of a newborn. Cale's eyes widened as the doctor lifted the small, fragile form into the air. A baby, red and tiny, its voice loud and alive. Cale's breath caught. Here it was, the truth. Human life began not from machines or division, but from within the body of the mother, through pain, through effort, through something his people had never known. The doctor placed the baby into the mother's arms. She wept, not from pain now, but from joy. Her eyes shone brighter than the stars. Her voice cracked as she whispered to the child. The father, standing nearby, leaned close, his hands shaking as he touched the newborn. Cale recorded every detail, but his hand trembled. He whispered, "Incredible, she risked her life. She gave her strength to create another life. This is beyond reason." He watched as the baby cried, tiny fists waving in the air. But the moment the mother pressed the child to her chest, the cries softened. The heartbeat of the mother calmed the newborn, as if the two were still connected by some invisible bond. Cale's throat tightened. His species had always separated newborns from their creators, never allowing such closeness. Yet here, he saw something powerful, something his science could not measure. He stepped closer, invisible, but trembling. The nurses smiled. The father kissed the mother's forehead. The baby rested quietly now. Cale whispered again, They endure pain not for themselves, but for another. They risk everything. And yet they celebrate it. They call it joy. The moment carved itself into his mind like fire. For the first time, Cale felt a sharp ache inside his chest. It was not fear, not confusion, but something else, something dangerous. Admiration. He backed away slowly, unable to take his eyes off the family. The newborn had entered the world not through machines or logic, but through sacrifice, through love. Cale whispered, "This is why humans survive. This is why they spread." Across their world, despite their fragility, they are willing to suffer for life. They are willing to bleed for their children. He left the room quietly, his mind spinning, his heart pounding. He passed through halls where other mothers held newborns, where families cried tears of joy, where laughter and love mixed with the scent of medicine. Everywhere he looked, the same truth repeated itself. Humans created life not only with their bodies, but with their hearts. And that was something Cale's people had never known. When he finally stepped outside into the night air, the city lights looked different. Earth no longer seemed fragile. It seemed unbreakable, because the secret of its people was not strength of body or weapons. It was their ability to endure pain for love. Cale looked up at the stars, his chest heavy with realization. He whispered into his recorder, "Shocking discovery confirmed. Human reproduction is not weakness. It is ultimate strength. It is the reason they cannot be defeated." He stood under the hospital lights, trembling. For the first time in his life, Cale felt humbled, and he knew that what he had witnessed would change him forever. Emotional conflict. Cale walked away from the hospital, but the images would not leave him. The woman's cries, the newborn's first breath, the father's trembling hands, they burned in his mind like fire. For hours he wandered through the city streets, his disguise still intact, his body present, but his thoughts trapped in chaos. He had discovered the truth, yet the truth unsettled him more than ignorance ever did. His species believed reproduction should be clean, without pain, without risk. New life was grown in pods, separated from emotion, separated from the body. There was no screaming, no blood, no danger, only science. Efficiency was their pride, order was their law. But what he had witnessed in the hospital shattered that belief. Humans risked themselves for life. They endured suffering, and yet they celebrated it. To Cale, this seemed both madness and brilliance. He sat on a stone bench in the park, his silver eyes staring at the ground. For the first time he felt heavy inside, as if his chest was carrying a weight his body was not designed to hold. His recorder sat in his hand, but he did not speak into it yet. What words could capture what he had seen? What logic could measure something so irrational yet so powerful? Cale remembered the moment the mother held the newborn against her chest. The cries quieted, the pain faded, and joy filled the room. That bond had no explanation, no formula, no code. It was invisible but stronger than any weapon. Cale whispered to himself, "Is this what they call love?" The word had echoed in human voices before, spoken casually between couples, whispered by parents to children. He had dismissed it as a cultural phrase, a meaningless sound. But now he realized it was not meaningless. It was the force behind their survival, the reason they fought, the reason they endured. And Cale feared it was the one thing his people would never understand. He leaned back on the bench, staring at the stars above. His people had conquered worlds, built machines that bent reality, created armies that could burn planets, but they had no love. They had no reason to suffer for each other, no reason to sacrifice. If a child was lost in the growth pod, they simply made another. No grief, no mourning, only replacement. Cale's chest tightened again. He whispered, "Maybe that is why humans are stronger than us. They fight because they have something to lose." For the first time, Cale felt shame. He imagined his people watching humans the way predators watch prey, believing them fragile, weak, simple. But now he knew the truth. Humans were not weak. They were the only Species willing to bleed for the future. Cale closed his eyes, and a strange ache spread through him. He wondered if this ache was the beginning of what humans called emotion. Hours passed before Cale rose again, his legs unsteady. He walked through the city once more, this time noticing things he had ignored before. A man carrying groceries stopped to help a stranger pick up spilled fruit. A woman laughed with her friend, her joy spreading to everyone nearby. A child fell on the sidewalk, and 3 others rushed to lift him up. Everywhere Cale looked, he saw connection. Everywhere he turned, he saw love in small forms. His people would have called these things weakness. But Cale could no longer see them that way. He stopped in front of a store window, where a television screen showed images of war. Soldiers marched. Explosions filled the screen. Humans fighting other humans. Cale frowned, his thoughts twisting. How could the same species that cherished life also destroy it? How could they protect children in one place and burn cities in another? The contradiction made his mind ache, but then he realized something. They fought not for the act of war itself, but for what they loved. They fought to protect families, to defend homes, to guard their way of life. Even in destruction, love was the hidden fuel. Cale turned away, whispering, "This is why they survive wars that should have destroyed them. They do not fight for survival alone. They fight for meaning." Back on his ship, Cale sat in silence, staring at the empty walls. He thought of his people, cold and logical. Would they ever understand this truth? Or would they dismiss it as weakness, never knowing it was the very thing that made humans unbreakable? He imagined what would happen if his people learned about human reproduction. Would they fear it? Would they try to erase it? The thought chilled him. He raised his recorder at last, his voice low and shaken. Observation. Human reproduction is not only biological, it is emotional. It requires suffering, but transforms suffering into joy. It is connected to something called love, which grants them strength beyond reason. Conclusion. My people lack this force, and without it, we may never surpass humans. He stopped recording, his hands trembling. For the first time in his life, Cale questioned his entire species. For the first time, he felt envy. Envy for a fragile race that carried something more powerful than technology. A force that could not be built, could not be cloned, could not be replaced. That night, Cale did not sleep. He sat at the edge of his ship, watching Earth turn slowly below. The blue planet looked small, fragile, vulnerable. Yet now he knew it was stronger than most empires in the galaxy, because it carried a secret his people had never touched. Cale whispered into the silence. Love is their shield. Love is their weapon. Love is their legacy. The conflict inside him grew heavier. Part of him wanted to send this truth back to his people. Part of him wanted to keep it hidden, to protect humans from those who would exploit them. And part of him, the part that was changing, wanted to stay on Earth forever, to learn what love truly felt like. Cale placed a hand against his chest, feeling the strange ache again. It was unfamiliar, uncomfortable, but also beautiful. For the first time, Cale realized he was no longer just an observer. He was becoming part of the story. The conversation. Cale could not stay silent anymore. Days had passed since he saw the birth inside the hospital, yet the memory refused to fade. Every scream, every tear, every smile haunted him, and every moment, the word louder. In his mind, he had observed enough. He had filled his recorder with notes and theories, but none of it was enough. He needed to hear it from a human's own mouth. He needed to understand why they endured such pain, why they risked so much for life. That night, Cale returned to the city once more. This time, he did not hide in shadows for long. He searched for someone who looked wise, someone who might know the truth. He found the answer inside the hospital again, among the doctors, the ones who stood between life and death every day. If anyone understood the secret, it would be them. Cale disguised himself again. But this time he let the cloak fade when he stepped into a quiet office. The doctor sitting there looked up in shock. Before the man could speak, Cale raised his hands gently. "I will not harm you," he said in careful English, his voice calm. "But strange. I only wish to ask a question." The doctor froze, staring at Cale's glowing silver eyes and features that looked almost human, yet not fully. The man's heart pounded, but something in Cale's voice stopped him from calling for help. Instead, he whispered, "What are you?" Cale tilted his head. "I am a traveler, not from your world. I came to learn, not to conquer." The doctor's lips parted, but no words came. Cale stepped closer, his expression desperate. "I have seen humans create life. I have seen your suffering, your joy, but I do not understand it. Tell me, why do you endure such pain to bring life into this world?" The doctor blinked, his fear fading into confusion, then into something softer. He leaned back in his chair, trying to find the right words. "Because life is worth it," he said simply. Cale frowned. "Worth it? You bleed, you scream, you risk death, and yet you call it worth it?" The doctor nodded slowly. "Yes, because every child is a piece of the future. Every child is hope. We suffer so they can live. We endure pain so they can have a chance at joy." Cale's eyes widened, his chest tightening again. The doctor continued, "Humans don't just survive, we live for each other. Parents suffer because love is greater than pain. Love gives us strength to face what would break us otherwise." That word again, love. Cale whispered it softly, as if tasting it for the first time. "Love." The doctor nodded. "Yes, love is why we do it. It is why we fight wars, why we protect our families, why we celebrate life even when it hurts us. Love is the reason." Cale trembled, his mind spinning. He looked at the man with desperate eyes. "And what is love? Is it a science? Is it a formula? How does it grow?" The doctor smiled sadly. "It cannot be measured. It cannot be created in a lab. It is a feeling, a connection, something you give without expecting anything back." Cale shook his head slowly. "Impossible. Nothing exists without reason. Nothing is given without return." The doctor leaned forward. "And yet, it is real. You saw it yourself in that delivery room, didn't you?" Cale froze, his silence the only answer. Yes, he had seen it. He had felt it in the way the mother's tears turned from agony to joy. He had felt it when the baby calmed at her heartbeat. He had seen it in the father's trembling hands, that invisible force, stronger than any machine, stronger than logic. It was love. The doctor's voice softened. "You are not from here, are you?" Cale shook his head slowly. "No, my people do not know love. We create life in pods, cold and sterile. Children grow without parents, without arms to hold them. We thought it was efficient. But now I see it is empty." For a long moment, silence filled the room. The doctor studied Cale, and Cale studied the doctor. Two beings from different worlds, yet connected by a single question. At last, the doctor said, "Then maybe that is why you came here, not just to learn about reproduction, but to learn about love itself." Cale's throat tightened, his chest ached. Could that be true? Was his journey not about science, but about something far greater? He whispered, "If love is real, then humans are stronger than any species I have ever known." The doctor smiled faintly. "Maybe that's why we're still here, against all odds." Cale closed his eyes, his recorder still in his hand. But for once, he did not speak into it. This truth was not for data, it was for his soul. The conversation had given him something no observation ever could: understanding. He stood, his body trembling with emotions he could not name. "I thank you," Cale said, his voice breaking. "You have given me what I did not know I was searching for." The doctor nodded, still in shock, but strangely calm. "Then take this with you," he said. "Love is not weakness, it is our greatest strength. Remember that." Cale turned and walked out of the office, fading back into the shadows of the night. But inside, nothing felt the same. He had come to learn about human reproduction. But he had discovered something far more dangerous: the secret of human strength, the shield and sword of their survival. Love. And as he walked into the night, Cale whispered to himself, If my people ever learn this secret, it will change everything. But perhaps it will destroy us before it saves us. Asterisk the revelation. Kale returned to his ship in silence. The city lights glowed behind him like a sea of stars, but he did not look back. His heart was heavy, his mind restless, his chest filled with something he could not name. The conversation with the doctor still echoed inside him, every word sharp, every word alive. Love. The doctor had said, love was the reason humans suffered for life, the reason they fought wars, the reason they endured what would break others. Kale had come to learn about reproduction, but reproduction was only the surface. The true secret of humanity was buried deeper. It was love inside the ship. The silence pressed against him. The walls were smooth, lifeless, efficient, a reflection of his people's values. For the first time, Kale hated that silence. For the first time, the perfection of the ship felt empty. He remembered the mother's cries turning to laughter, the baby's wail softening against her heartbeat, the father's trembling touch. None of it existed here. None of it had ever existed among his kind. And suddenly, Kale felt alone in a way he never had before. He activated his recorder, his voice unsteady. Final log. Subject: human reproduction and emotional force, he began. Conclusion: humans do not create life through machines, nor division, nor pure logic. They create life through pain, through risk, through sacrifice, but above all, through love. He paused, his throat tightening. Observation: love is not weakness, it is strength. Greater than weapons, greater than technology, it is the shield of humanity, and their most dangerous weapon. He stopped recording and stared at the stars through the viewport. Every star held worlds, every world held life, yet none like this. Humans were fragile, soft, short-lived, and yet they carried something no empire had mastered. Love bound them, guided them, lifted them. Love made them more than survival. It made them unstoppable. Kale clenched his fists, torn between duty and desire. His people expected reports. They expected knowledge. They expected him to send every discovery back to them. But if he told them the truth, if he revealed the secret of human strength, what would they do? Would they try to control it? Would they try to erase it? Would they see humans as a threat and destroy them before love could spread? Kale's heart ached at the thought. He whispered, if they learn this secret, they will not respect it. They will fear it. He stood at the console, his finger hovering over the transmitter. One message, and the truth would travel across galaxies, but instead, he pulled his hand away. For the first time, Kale chose silence. The truth was not his to give. The secret belonged to the humans, and he would protect it, even from his own kind. He turned away from the console and walked back to the viewport. Earth floated below, a fragile jewel wrapped in clouds and oceans. Kale stared at it for a long time. He whispered, you are not weak. You are not fragile. You are the strongest I have ever seen, because you carry something my people never will. The words slipped from his lips again, soft but certain. Love. Kale lowered himself to the floor of his ship, his hands trembling. He thought of his people, cold and distant, raising children in glass pods without ever touching them. He thought of the mother he saw in the hospital, her arms cradling life with a strength no machine could replace, and he wondered, for the first time in his long existence, if his people were truly advanced, or if they were broken. The thought frightened him, but also freed him. Perhaps advancement was not about machines, not about control, but about connection. Perhaps the humans, with all their flaws and chaos, were the ones truly ahead. Kale pressed his hand against his chest, feeling that strange ache again. It was not just admiration now, not just curiosity. It was longing, a longing to feel what they felt, to live as they lived, to love as they loved. For the first time, Kale wished he was human. He rose slowly, his decision made. He would not send his report. He would not expose the secret. Instead, he would stay. He would watch, he would learn, and perhaps one day, he would understand love not with his mind, But with his heart, Kale whispered, "If love is what makes humans strong, then I must learn it too, no matter the cost." He looked at Earth One. Last time before turning away, the world seemed to glow brighter now, not because of its oceans or cities, but because of the invisible force that bound its people together. Kale whispered into the silence, "Humans are special, not because they survive, but because they live, because they love." And with that revelation, Kale closed his eyes. The alien who had come seeking knowledge had found something far greater, and though he was not human, he carried within him a spark of the same force that gave them strength, love.